Hey, welcome back. This is week 8, the last class in the Intro to GIS series. So in this class, we'll be mostly reviewing on what we have done so far, what we have learned in terms of GIS functionality. We have learned about presentation and thematic mapping, how to actually download census data and map it, which is a pretty crucial part of a GIS analyst or a GIS specialist job description. And also we have learned how to geocode and do address matching, which is also a pretty this is nuts and bolts of GIS we are talking about here. Again, we learned on how to perform these data queries and spatial queries. For example, so somebody is trying to so we have learned how to prepare these databases and updating, whether this is an Excel sheet or an Access database. We have seen, or we have at least got introduced to the process. So what you are seeing here on this in this example is this company trying to this is their proprietary office building information data sheet, where they actually enter all this information. Looks like a access form, and then this information has been geocoded and then presented in a map format. So if you are a and then this is available for all your brokers and all your company company property assessment asset managers, where you can actually look up this information, maybe do some buffering, use spatial analysis to actually further analyze this data. So sort of like spatial query of the same information that has been put into a Access database. So let's look at what let's talk about real estate specific examples, and maybe look at by activity what we can do with GIS, how GIS can help that particular activity in terms of real estate. So if you are talking about appraisers, the GIS use would be to actually maintain the database of comparable properties and identifying what is near these comparable properties, and then sort of like used to measure and estimate value of proximity to amenities and public fact. Everybody has to do this, so GIS can help you. So if you pay close attention to the key here, key actually gives AM is address matching, DU is database updating, DQ is data query, SQ is spatial query, buffer is buffering, distance is calculation of distance, PIP is in point in polygoning, TM is thematic mapping, and GC is geocoding. So these are all the things that we already know how to do. So we'll see what activities sort of like will sort of associate the activity with the type of functionality that this particular real estate let's call them real estate analyst uses. So maintaining databases can be done by address matching and database updating constantly, and the same way data querying can identifying comparable properties we can do by data query or spatial query. What is near select by location or select by attributes. And then there you can use buffers to actually create buffers around this comms to identify the features around them. And then you can measure and proximity to amenities can be done by using calculating distances and buffers, creating buffers, and some statistical modeling. So this is pretty simple. I have given you some this way you can sort of like understand the role of this particular GIS analyst and try to match up, try and see what you can do in terms of how you can integrate GIS into that role's basic job description or a day-to-day activity. So again, you'll be as an appraisal, you'll be using this property listings, which could be points, which could have a lot of assessment data, valuation data, rents, and all that good stuff in the database. And then you'll be as a appraiser, you will be working with public facilities and area amenities, you will be mostly responsible as the final project. You are responsible for creating a grocery shapefile. So the same kind of stuff can go into this, creating points and lines and polygons depending on what you need. So when you come to brokers, what they need to do is summarize available properties from a map. Essentially, this is thematic mapping, saying okay, what properties are valued and where they are located, and query the map for specific property characteristics. It's sort of like, think of this as a Zillow or a Trulia interface, where you actually go to this GIS application and you say, okay, I want to look for a property which is 1 bedroom in this school district at a price of 100,000 to, I don't know, 60,000 or something like that. So it depends on what it is you are trying to find, and then you can use a variety of spatial queries and attribute queries for this kind of a task. So you can identify outliers, unusual properties with respect to rent levels, prices, occupancy, or features, and you need to do this as a broker to identify market outliers. So essentially, you'll be using data querying, spatial querying, buffering, and point in polygoning. Okay, let's look at what the developers need. They need to identify growth areas. They need to identify environmental and entitlement constraints, prepare environmental documents, and then site and infrastructure planning. So all this they need to do, and GIS can definitely help them by identifying growth areas, by mapping, essentially mapping census information. Census information is pretty critical. They'll give you growth rates and median incomes and population densities, which could be very useful in identifying growth areas and market gaps. And then the same thematic mapping tool can be used for identifying environmental constraints, or maybe overlay flood zones and floodways and different kind of stuff, and try to use distance and buffer tools to actually identify the constraints. And then it can be useful in demonstrating some of these constraints while you're preparing environmental documents by creating good looking maps. And then when you're site planning and it's very critical in to geocode stuff, maybe geocode your competition, geocode your maybe come up with thematic maps that will support your decision to actually choose a particular site and so on. So developers can use this tool pretty extensively, to be honest. And then again, you think investors and fund managers are all about numbers, but they have their own GIS application, so to speak. Especially they can maintain a map application of the database of all the property holdings and thematic maps, in terms of the same thematic maps like growth areas and growth rates and median incomes, and that kind of stuff could be extremely useful for those people in making informed decisions about those particular properties against the demographic trends in the area. And then identify areas of property acquisition. Essentially, what you're trying to do is identify any future growth. Maybe while mapping growth, again, this all boils down to identifying future growth areas, where you actually map the future growth by projecting the current growth rates and identifying areas where your property would be more valuable in the future. So that kind of, I think, could be extremely useful for a investor and a fund manager. Lenders, again, if you are a money lender like a bank, you need to maintain a map of all the database of all the loans. These days this is extremely sophisticated. If you talk about like a risk assessment analyst, which is a trending field right now. They maintain map of loans. They analyze the risk by identifying patterns of foreclosures and loan activities, and then they also that'll in fact actually improve loan underwriting. And if you are a bank and you're trying to locate a new branch, this could be extremely useful by identifying, when you are trying to identify locations for your new branches, because the population trends, loan activities and banking activities, savings, level of savings and all that good stuff, which would actually go into your model in deciding where you need your next branch to be located yet. So again, GIS can help map all this stuff, help visualize and understand this data a lot better than actually just looking at tables. So they use it a lot. And if you are talking about market research analyst, which could be who could be working in a real estate department, a planning department, in an economic development division, your job is to identify, analyze population and job and income trends. Or you could be a property manager, anybody. You need to identify project market areas, identify and evaluate competitiveness, competitive properties, and determine the location of property price or rent. So all these people, what they do is they map census data, demographic information, socioeconomic information, and they use a lot of buffering, geocoding, and data querying and spatial querying to actually use these values. Maybe they won't use all of this, maybe some of this, to actually generate the inputs for their models. So again, GIS can be extremely critical for a market research analyst. And then if you are a sales and shopping center owner or an operator, you need to keep track of all your prospects, where are your customers coming from, and keep track of store performance. We recently heard that Radio Shack is closing 1100 stores, which is like 20% of their total stores, which is a significant number. How do they think they came up with that kind of an analysis? Obviously it took a lot of analysis, and I can say without doubt that one of the main tools that they used was some kind of like a business analyst model using GIS, where they identified all the stores, competition, store performance, and sort of trying to optimize their markets by closing some of these stores. So again, this is a GIS function, this is a geographic function, which could be extremely critical in optimizing and helping your business models. So that's how you can use GIS or incorporate GIS into some of your work, depending on which area of real estate you're working. But implementation strategies is about how you actually go about implementing GIS in a more or less GIS. You're starting from scratch. You don't know what you're a small company, or you're just starting to implement GIS. It could be useful to know what are the key to success in terms of implementing GIS. So what are the key factors? So first you need to identify how it's going to help you. What is the problem that you're trying to solve, and what added benefits it's going to provide to your company when it will eventually implement this GIS system. And then how easy would it be to actually use after you are done implementing the system? Would everybody get access? Who will be getting access? Who will be contributing to the databases? What are the workflows and productive, and how it will actually improve your productivity is extremely critical in identifying this. Also, you need to think ahead and think all of these things through your workflows, while understanding what is the data that you'll be required to procure, and how easy it would be for you to update this data, and how easily would your end users be able to access this data. And you need to think about expandability, whether you can scale this product into something bigger, and if there are issues, who will support it, and also you need to understand the linkages to just the databases, like an Oracle or a PLSQL, or a SQL database, which would be connecting to these applications, and how easy it would be to actually how what is the rate of return, return on investment sort of a thing, and what is the risk and how much money you need to spend on this. So you need to understand all this for you to be successful in creating this GIS system. Also, you need to think about you need to do certain things like general needs assessment, and cost benefit analysis, and you need to have like a plan in action where you actually talk to people, maybe get some professional opinion on what it's going to cost, and you need to understand the benefits and maybe do like a cost benefit analysis, and what is a function requirement, because this is going to be pretty problem solving solution, right? You are trying to solve a particular problem in your company. So what is the cost of actually doing that, and what's the benefit coming out of it? You need to understand all this, and you need to understand what is the system configuration, how this should be set up, hardware and software requirements, and then you need to have like a strategic plan that encompasses all this stuff. So again, you need to answer so many different questions before you go on investing this 20, I don't know how much, it depends on what kind of a system. It could be anywhere from a couple of thousand to up to 40, 50, even $100,000. So it really depends on what it is you're trying to set up here. Again, you need to keep answering these questions like, what do we gain by doing this? When is it appropriate to begin, and how long will it take? Is it going to take 2 months? So also we need to understand role assignment, who should do this, how should you do this, what resources you need to have in terms of human resources, and you need to understand again the costs of actually doing all this stuff. So again, implementing GIS, problem solving, essentially you need to understand what software you need, data you need, what kind of hardware you would need, and peripheral like plotters and printers and all that good stuff, and what you will analyze and present, and what are the deliverables, and you need to understand your solutions and decisions. So that's your implementation strategy, and so something to think about when you are thinking about implementing GIS. Anyways, that's it for the class. Thanks for watching.